Hey, this is Zac.
And I'm Clint, and we wanted to thank Exoterra for sponsoring this episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Exoterra is the industry leader in glass terrarium enclosures, and we are a big fan of getting to see the species we work with both at home and at the university.
We utilize Exoterra caging here at Metazotics, and in addition to top quality terrariums, Exoterra offers an array of heating options, lighting, supplements, decor, and truthfully anything needed or wanted when keeping reptiles.
Thank you, Exoterra, for supporting Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of CCR. As always, Zac here with brother from another mother, Clint Bartley. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Making things happen. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. My feed might be a little glitchy tonight. There's a couple of little cells moving through. In fact, one glitched me out right when we went to the Exoterra commercial, and I was like, am I going to be there when we do this thing? So apparently I was. So here we are. Tonight we are going to have on a true fan of CCR. He's been around for quite some time, came to Colubrid Fest, is one of our collaborator Patreons, the one and only PJ Kohn, who will be talking about 100-flower, rat snakes, moellendorffi, and we call them a lot of different things in herpetoculture. And for many species, for many people, they're a grail species. They're kind of unique among the Asians. I haven't kept them, as you said earlier. You've killed a lot of them.
Clutch.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll learn something from PJ so that doesn't happen in the future for anybody taking care of them. So we want to thank PJ for coming on and being with us, and we'll get to him here shortly. But as always, we have our intro. For the science update tonight, I'm going to give an update on Iowa because I just got back from, I don't know how many days it was, 5 days out there, and projects are going full steam. At the end of my trip, I got to spend time, finally made it to the Westmoreland's house.
That's
so
awesome.
I want to thank Eric and Katie for hosting me, hosting the students, doing some yard herping, seeing the collection, and sending some food back with my kids. I can't tell you how awesome they are and how appreciative the students are. I was for them doing that. They even took me out to dinner to get some tacos, which was great. And I want to say I was not prepared for the yard herping.
I want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah,
so I read when you said that.
So we were walking. We obviously go into the house where Eric has the Japanese rat snakes, the his boas, the diamond pythons he's talked about, and then the Asian stuff that needs to be cooler, which was awesome. Also got to meet their herd of dogs, which is amazing. You need to tell people about those more, Westmorelands, because they were wonderful. But then we went to go into the collection, and we were in the collection, which was immaculate and everything you would expect out of Eric. And he mentioned, well, let's go in and do some herping real quick. And so we go out into the yard, and he just has, like all good herpers, I have it here, tin and pieces of plastic and things set up in an orderly way around the yard. And we flip it and immediately find a Thamnophis radix prairie garter snake. I think that's right. And what's really funny is in Iowa, I kept saying to the students, I really would like to find a radix. I haven't found my radix yet for the year. And then in Eric's yard, we found at least a dozen, I think. And some of them were high red, which, I've seen those in books. I've seen them, at shows, but it was awesome to see.
Oh, I think Zac froze with a really funny face. So hopefully Zac will unfreeze pretty soon. And Max just corrected us. It's Plains garter snake. But I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of that story because field herping in the yard.
Am I back?
There you are.
All right. So I have no clue where that story ended. Like I said, thunderstorms were moving through. But anyway, got to see the high red phase of the Plains garter snake. Thank you, Max. I did hear that. And in his yard, which is cool. Like, I don't know. So Westmoreland's We all know them. We all love them. We know what we expect high quality, and I can now attest it's there. So hit them up if you want anything that Eric breeds. It was just a wonderful visit, and I love those guys. And yeah, so that's that. And then full transparency, I had a gut punch right before I left. So I bought a pair of adult Jani, Pitchophis depi Jani, North Mexican pine snakes. I'm screwing up common names left and right tonight. And I put them, I bought an adult pair, and then I bought an additional male, and I put that male with the female to kind of outcross a little bit, if assuming they weren't related, but who knows if they were or not. And I was tracking that female like a hawk, and absolutely no indication by my standard of what the gravid snake looks like that she was gravid. And so I didn't put any kind of lay box in there, and pulled open the tub and saw her kind of laying there, and she had one extremely large slug at her cloaca. And the last time I had looked at her was about 4 days before that. And she must have laid it like 30 seconds after I pulled the damn tub. And so, long story short, I got the eggs. I think I saved the eggs, but she has now passed. So now it's just like when you finally get what, the pairs all matched up and everything, you're like, all right, I'm set on this species. I'm kind of back to square one because I've got multiple males and no breeder females. So that kind of sucked. But I did get bull snake eggs finally, which is good. I've acquired a couple new boas because I, like you, I'm a boa guy. And then I think all the hogs are done laying. The kings are done laying. I think I'm in a good spot. So now we're just waiting for things to hatch, and not a colubrid, but the most colubrid-like python there is. We bred womas at the university, and they're all hatching right now, which is pretty awesome because we bred womas before, and we got a lot of moldy eggs because we didn't quite understand the formula for them to hatch. Lucas Lee, Centralian Exotics, was instrumental in getting us to get those things. In fact, when they were laid, I told Mort, our animal keeper, I was like, call Lucas right now and do whatever he says. Whatever Lucas says is what we're doing. And so there's this crazy, you put the moist perlite at the bottom, and then you put vermiculite in the middle, and then you put dry perlite on top. It was like baking a cake, but the cake is baked because all the eggs hatched today, which is pretty awesome. So we got a little bit of redemption up at the university with womas. But yeah, that's my major updates. What's up with you?
Things continue to crank, pretty regularly and pretty quickly. As I said, we've gone through the bulk of our ball python laying, and so now the colubrids are really kicking in. We're a little later than what we normally are, but with winter the way it was, is what it is. But I just looked, and we currently have 598 eggs in the incubator, and
is
that's
that all?
And that's with the colubrids just starting to crank out, really. You know what I mean? But I just scanned through some of what we've got, on the list here, and there's green bush, there's a few black rats, leucistic Texas rats, different bamboo rats, Mexican knights, at least one or two gray bands with a bunch. Corey just came to me either today or yesterday and told me that there's like a dozen or so gray bands that, basically that southwest room just shed. So we're going to have tons
all
of
at once
there. Yeah. So she also let me know that we've got at least two gravid Barons racers. So
nice.
We'll have those cranking out. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, lots of stuff going on. We actually we had our first eggs of the year hatch over the last week. Ball python eggs. Although a lot of people are like, yeah, boring, but this was cool. Are you familiar with Paradox?
Yes.
Yeah. So we actually hatched out a Paradox banana ball python. So it's got the black on it where it shouldn't have any. It looks pretty neat, and it certainly got some attention when we posted some pictures of that. And then we had a few others that I have to say, while, the activity of a ball python isn't super intriguing to me, watching ball python eggs hatch when I'm messing with so many different genes, that's pretty cool because you don't know what's going to come out. I will tell you today, we had a clutch that we're pipping, and Ox is standing there with me as, we're kind of going through them. And I go, okay, here's what this pairing was. And it was like 4 genes to 4 genes. And I mean, so all this stuff could have happened. So many things. The very first snake we look at, normal. You gotta be kidding me. Even Ox was losing it all that was so that was good. We, personally, something really cool that I think is really cool. Corey called me an old man, said this is like, one of those crossing
I called you an old man earlier today too.
But I now have this conversion thing on my desk that converts into a stand-up desk, little just with pushing a button.
Yeah.
Because I am so sick of sitting on my butt in this office. That's not who I am. It's not what I've done for years. So at least now I can stand while doing all this computer work. But it also kind of makes me bounce back and forth out of the door easier. It's not getting up, sitting down, So that's exciting for me, completely snake related. But really happy. As far as like this past weekend, things like that, I spent all weekend at a softball tournament, watched my little girl play. She did fantastic. She went to the championship in that tournament. They came in second. So very proud of her. Another side note, so Smith has been accompanying me and Ox to the gym every morning now.
Really?
And yeah, that's been he sets his alarm. He gets up in the morning all by himself. And yeah, so I'm pretty proud of him too. And then we've got Dex, who is currently he's in a play that's happening this weekend, and it's Aladdin, and he got the role of Jafar. And I'm like, hell yeah, that's a cool character. So all the kids have some neat stuff going on right now. So real proud of them. But
we've gone down kid lane. I want to say something about Colin because I made a post today. So full circle moment for me. My first job out of high school was we had a nature center at the local city park, and they have something called Nature Day Camp, and I was a nature counselor, like that day camp counselor. So, and I tell everybody that's where I learned to teach. I did not learn to teach in college. I did not learn to teach in grad school. I learned how to teach dragging 6-year-olds through the woods and trying to keep those little bastards alive. Like that's what taught me how to herd 20-year-olds was day camp. And of course, very special to me. So Colin went to day camp, from the first year all the way up through, when they end, and they do this thing called counselor and training. And so it came time for him to get his first job. And just like his dear old dad, his first job was a nature day camp counselor. So he's going to be there doing exactly what I did, which isn't trippy at all. And he started this week. And it was just really funny because he came home, he just graduated high school, first time doing that. And he just like dissolved onto the couch, just, and I was like, what's wrong, bud? He's like, I'm tired. I'm like, yeah. Isn't it fun working? He's like, it's fun, but damn. I was like, yeah, that's right. So anyway, but I'm proud of him. Full circle moment that he's like, we're literally on the same trajectory, and he's going to West Liberty, and he's majoring in conservation. So we'll see how this all works out over the next 4 years. But
that's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yep. All right. You ready to do a market update?
I certainly can. The market update, as always, is brought to you by the Show Me Reptile Show and Show Me Marketplace. As we always say, Mickey and his team, if it wasn't for them, Coluberfest wouldn't exist. And as a reminder, Coluberfest is coming to Evansville. It's going to be here before we know it. We're just a little over 3 months away right now. And I also want to give them a shout out. We did their Terre Haute show just this past Sunday. And it's a show that's a new show, and they're building it, really trying to get into that market properly. And it was solid for us, for sure. So thank you, Show Me. And let's jump into it. This is going to be our big one. We're going to move into some numbers here. This is the first of the month as far as first show of the month. So, it's starting on not where it's supposed to. Let's get that fixed. All right, try that again. Here we go. Okay. So balls and total listings. As we look at the graph, we continue to move in the same pattern. And we are now at, it's funny because I've been saying this now for at least, since I think April. So 3 months in a row now, if not since March, that each month we are at the lowest point of ball python listings and total listings that we have had since tracking this, for a couple years now. Ball pythons are down to 22,606 listings versus 23,985. And gosh, can you remember when that was like 45,000? I mean, it's crazy to think about how much that's changed. Total listings, 34,632 versus 3,660 last month. Colubrid listings. Here you got bulls and pines, went down a little bit since last month. Corn snakes, they dropped. Garters, I think garters actually lifted just a little bit, but I mean, if you list 2 more snakes, that's a lift in garters that's noticeable. Yep. So we'll look at exact numbers in a minute. Hognose, kind of flat, to be honest. I mean, it was small dip, but still flat for as many as there are that are listed. Wasn't much change or movement in hognose. House snakes, kind of right there with the garters, where I think there was a slight lift. Maybe there's 1 or 2 more listed. King snakes, a little bit of a dip. Milk snakes, slight dip. Rat snakes, pretty much flat from last month. Other colubrids, I think, is either flat or maybe a slight gain. So looking at market share here, we've got ball pythons are now at 65% of the overall market share. And again, that was at 85% when we first started looking at this. So we're definitely continuing to see that shift. Colubrids are at 19%, boas at 10%, other pythons at 6%. And to give some exact numbers here, so ball pythons are 69.3% of the market. They were 65.3% of the market. They are 65.3 now. They were 69.3 in May. So they actually lost 4 points of their market share since last month. Other pythons were 5.4 in May. They are 5.9 now. So they gained 0.4, 0.5, depending on how it's rounded. Boas were 9% in May. They're 9.5% in June. So about a 0.4, 0.5 increase, again, depending on rounding. Colubrids actually lost a point. They were 20.4 in May, 19.4 in June. And I think that's really because you're seeing just a slight lift, because if you look here, other pythons and boas, actually both of them had a few more listed in June than they did in May. Mm-hmm. And so that's why they just took a little bit. So it's really kind of a wash there to a point. Other than I will say, ball pythons, I mean, that's another 1,379 less than were listed in May. So they're still selling. And I'll attest to that. We're still moving a lot of ball pythons through Metazotics. In fact, Ox just sold a $4,000 ball python yesterday. I mean, so to say the market's gone, that's not an accurate statement. It's still there. Overall, the market or the number of listings dropped 4 points. Went from, as we said, 3,660 in May to 34,632 in June. The colubrid market share, kind of how that divvies up. Hoggies still hanging in that 40 range. They're at 42% currently. Corn snakes at 23%. Bulls, pines, and gophers at 5%. Rats at 8%. Milks at 8%. Kings at 13%. Other colubrids at 3%. Garters are making right around 1%. And house snakes are less than 1% of what's listed right now. And to break those down into actual numbers, Pituophis, 313 listings. Corn snakes, 1,534. Garters, 34 garters listed. Our good buddy Jared out at KRE, I know he's worked with some garters too. He's been listening to the show. He hears how few there are, so he's making the smart play. Hognose, 2,820. House snakes, 33. Kings, 905. Milks, 328. Rats, 534. All others, 219. All right, so some current trends and patterns. Shipping changes and hub closures have people nervous. So this is something, it's going to be rare. I don't know if there's going to be any FedEx Express hubs that are still in existence over the next couple of years, if not by the end of this year. In short, what they're doing is they're combining their ground locations and express locations into one. From a business standpoint, I can see where it makes sense. I mean, why are you paying for two locations in the same areas or cities? It sucks for us. And I know in many cases, the ground hubs don't allow pickups and drop-offs like the Express did. And that's where the issue is. So I know that Morph Market is working with FedEx to attempt to open up more location, not open new locations, but changing the restrictions in a lot of FedEx partner locations or just regular FedEx locations so that they will allow live animals dropped off and picked up there. So more on that. But as it is, people are getting a little nervous with having animals shipped because their hubs are closed and they know their animals are going to be sitting on a truck for several hours. June should be the final month of the quote unquote sell down where we keep seeing fewer listings. If it filters into July a little bit, I won't be surprised, but I'm doubting it. I think this is the last month. The month we're in now will be the last one where we see that number actually declining. So you're going to start seeing new posts, more posts, and you know, that market grow. Product prices will be increasing again in July. Was just told last week by a major reptile company and supplier that prices will increase. And typically, if one major company is having to do it, we're going to see it trickle to the others. You know, just this is the economy, the world, and the country we live in right now, that this continues to happen. It happened in January, and we felt it. It's now happening again in July. We're going to continue to feel it. Ports have been a bit of an issue. ReptiChip just got restocked. They, as well as many others, had several of their cargo containers just halted. I mean, with everything that's been going on. So that's been, again, another issue with product delays. It sucks, but there's really not much that can be done from a consumer standpoint or even a provider standpoint. It's out of our hands. And unfortunately, the hands of those that don't seem to be fixing the problem. 30 and 60-day advice, questions to ask. As a reminder, book your travel to Kluberg Fest.
Do it.
September 27th, 28th, 29th, if I'm right on my dates. I'm pretty sure I am. Evansville, Indiana. You get to come see all of us, get to see Metazotics, and of course, get to hear fantastic presentations as well as the Kluberg only shows. So get on out here. As I've said before, post anything you have available now. You have 30 days before it jumps. So 30 days where you're not going to have as many pictures for them to scroll through to get to yours. So get on it. Some new advice. Ensure you are stocked up on phase packs. And what I'm saying is we ship with the ice packs, we ship with heat packs. The phase gel, what I like about that is it balances and regulates the temperature a little better. It keeps you more at the 70-degree mark. And the reason I'm telling you to stock up on those is because if you are shipping, there's probably it's an increased likelihood that you're not getting to drop off your package anymore, that it's going to have to be scheduled for a pickup, which means it's going to be in transit longer. Because if you're like me, I was dropping off like 30 minutes before FedEx closed. Now it might be 2 p.m. during the hottest part of the day, when they're picking up this box and it's traveling in the truck for a few hours. Plus, you're probably not going to be shipping to as many hubs, meaning it's going to be on the truck on the other end as well. And especially when we're still in the time where if nights are cool, days are blazing hot, you need consistency in your temperature, and the phase packs are the way to do it. The reason I'm telling you to stock up on it now is not just because you're probably going to need more of these than what you've used in the past during shipping, but if everyone starts needing more of them and making these big purchases, we just saw above, prices continue to increase. We have problems at the ports. I can't be incredibly surprised if we see supply hiccups that occur, on that particular product. So not saying that we will. This is just me trying to be preemptive and staying ahead of the curve. So get those while you can. During this time right now, post your clutch pictures, hatching pictures, drive excitement. This is, people have been looking at a lot of the same things for a few months now. There's not been a whole lot of new. So if you have animals that are hatching, you have animals that are laying, build the excitement for you, for your brand, for your season by getting those pictures posted, as often as quickly as you can. I'm also going to tell you to travel to new shows. I've been saying for months now how well shows have been treating us, and that continues to be the case. And while I can name several things that I think have certainly helped Metazotics be successful at these shows, I will say one of those is that we're going to shows that we are new to.
Yeah.
And while there's certainly something that, is beneficial about people knowing you're going to be at a show regularly, they know what to expect. It's the first time we show up with high-end colubrids, they're drooled all over, but not everybody was expecting them. Not everybody brought, the pocketbook to be able to do what they wanted to do. The second show, they are you going to be back? And they know what kind of, things we're bringing. But when you are new, and especially if you're bringing things that aren't always at this show, you are going to get a lot of attention. So try some new shows, go a little bit further than your comfort zone, travel a little farther. If you think, I don't know if it's going to be worth it. Okay. Don't go win that show, but go to it. Walk around, scout it. What do you see? Do you see where you could be something different in that location? Because I can tell you, different is what show promoters want, different is what customers want. So take a look at that, and I think it really will help your level of success. And that is what I have for the market update.
Where did I go?
I think we were both closing my thing at the same time, so I accidentally closed you out.
All good. Okay. So, Science Update is brought to our good friends at Rare Genetics, Inc. Kayla, Ben, and company have been cranking on some tests. I believe we are having them on the show next time. Is that correct? Clint froze.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Max is going like this. I said, I believe that we're having Kayla and company on the show next.
That is the plan, correct.
Yeah, to basically give us an update on all their new tests that they have. They have some really cool stuff going on. So you'll get that. Also, before I forget to mention it, because I already did, the next episode, we are holding ourselves accountable. We've hinted at this for a while. Clint and I think it's been maybe just under a year. We wanted to have like the ultimate mite show. Mites impact everybody. If you have a snake, it can get mites. If you have things like blue tongues and certain lizards, they can get ophionesis. That's the snake mite. So I have the time. I didn't want to rush it. So I'm going to do a deep dive on mite biology. This whole super mite thing, do they exist? We're going to talk about treatments, how things like NexGard actually work. The pill, how can we get it? So I got a lot to do in the next 2 weeks, but I actually have the time to do it well. So next show is going to be a good one when it comes to a horrible topic that everybody hates. But, you can combat things when you're educated. So our goal is to educate on snake mites, because I've learned a little bit about their biology I didn't know. And they are, I hate to say it, guys, they're worse than we think as far as why they keep popping up. There's a couple reasons why that happens. All right. So before we jump into the science update itself, we wanted to give our friends over at RGI some credit, because right now they're doing a live stream, or they're doing a live stream. It is right now, correct?
It's if not, it's about to be. It's
about to be
crossing over at some point.
Yeah. So we'll put this up on the stage. here we go. So we've had Dennis McNamara on the show. Dennis and his wife are both zookeepers at the Virginia Zoo. And they both have like managerial positions there where they oversee keepers and things of that nature. And unfortunately, Jen, his wife, has been diagnosed with, I believe it is breast cancer, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that is correct.
And they, we want to help them. RGI wants to help them. And I can't think of a nicer guy in the hobby than Dennis. Like, he literally is just a calming force. He never has any drama. He never like does anything shady. He's just kind of always present. He came on our show and basically, I know a lot of people that listen were endeared with the fact he's like, I keep corn snakes because I like corn snakes, and that's why. And that's the kind of guy that we like. Yeah. Obviously, his family's being impacted by this, and we don't like that. So they are basically doing through midnight tonight. So if you're listening to this in the car tomorrow or something, look and see if you can help. But they're doing a web, basically buy stuff on their website. Proceeds go to the McNamara family.
Not technically accurate.
Go for it, Clint.
So this is through next Tuesday. So from right now all the way through next Tuesday. So that's one correction. And RGI is, if you see up in the upper left-hand corner, RGI, there. We've got a QR code up there. They are launching their new website with new testing, a lot of new features. I mean, very exciting. And it's not the proceeds. Every dollar that is spent at RGI from now until next Tuesday is going to go to Dennis McNamara's family to help this. So it's not proceeds. It's every sales dollar. I mean, so I just think that that's absolutely incredible on their part. And, as Zac said, I mean, we are big fans of Dennis. And I love getting to chat with Dennis at Tinley. He, such a good guy. We get to, and I love because, you've got, like a zoo curator here that also likes to talk the business at the same time. You know what I mean? And so it's just, I love whenever you can
come at it.
Dennis, right. So such a great guy. It breaks our heart to know that they're going through what they're going through. So please check out RGI's website. Look at what they're going to have. And again, it's being launched tonight. And so for a full week, any sale, anything purchased off of that site, every single dollar is going to go straight to Dennis McNamara and his family. And, on what we have up here, I know it says all proceeds, but this is coming directly from Sean, one of the owners of RGI. He contacted us directly to let us know every single dollar is going to go. So
thank you for that correction.
No problem.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So go do that. And if you're watching YouTube and you can see the QR code, scan the QR code, pause our show, and go do that if you can. That's more important than listening to us jabberjaw. So with that being said, we protect our own. We want to lift people up that need lifted up, and the McNamara is absolutely needed right now. So let's show them some support and get after that. All right. So I'm going to I did this the last time I went out to Iowa, and I got a lot of really good, I got some messages that said, do that again. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll do that again.
I was one of them.
Yeah. So the science update is ever evolving. And so basically, every time I go out to check in, if you will, I'm going to give you a notes from the field and give you some updates on what the students are finding. And this last trip was my big trip of the summer. This time of year, beginning of June, is when everything is really popping off out there. Everything's basically up out of brumation. The Sam Prairie is at its zenith. The plants are doing what they need to do. The prey species are moving, and the snakes are moving after the prey. So trying to keep this to 10 minutes. I'm going to put up to the stage. Hold on one second, because this is on the wrong slide. Okay, so bear with me, please. And of course it's frozen. All right. Anyway, if you're in your car, I'm sorry. So I've got to hold on a second, people. My computer is being the worst tonight. So, okay. Oh, for the love of God. Well, we're not going to have pictures. Wah, wah, wah. But anyway, we'll have one picture. So here's one of our telemetered hogs in situ as we found it, to use a word that everybody else loves and I kind of hate. But we saw, so when I was out there, the first kind of big heat wave hit, and they haven't had rain since I was out there before. In fact, the running joke now is that Loughman brings the rain, because when I was out there the last time, they hadn't had rain for a little while, and they got completely slammed with rain. And then I left and had been gone for about 2.5 weeks and no rain. And then I showed back up again. And right when I was leaving, that part of the world got slammed with rain. But what was interesting is basically the hognose snakes are kind of, they're acting like there is rain. The rain's not stopping their movement, which is kind of an interesting observation. With that being said, we've got a lot of, this is not cryptic basking. The picture we can see, it's a hog coiled up. This is just basking. And we saw a lot of that behavior. We also saw a lot of movement. So the animals are moving. What else is really cool is that not only are they moving, but the snakes are eating the turtle eggs. So the whole interaction where the turtles are nesting and then the hogs convene on the nests. And then at the same time, they're getting ready to lay their eggs. That's all happening right now. But what's interesting is turtles don't nest until it rains. So last year, this time of year, the hogs were going ballistic, just pounding all the turtles' nests. The turtles are about 2 weeks behind the main peak of the nesting. So the only way we were finding turtle nests for a while was just stumbling on a hog that was eating a nest. And last year, I think I saw this happening 8 times the same week. This year, we saw it happen twice. Fortunately, today, June 9th, was the day that the turtles did their mass nesting. I actually have a graduate student, Mariah, who's studying the turtles. And, up until yesterday, I think she's been out there for 2.5 weeks. She's had like 7 nests. Today, they got over 30. So They literally do this. When the conditions are right, they dump their eggs. So it is going to be, picture every buffet in your life. CC's Pizza, Golden Corral, China buffet. They're all going to be just pounding those turtle nests over the next couple of days. And I missed it by 2 days, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. One of the things that's really interesting is that the hognose, we keep finding these, we call them egg packets. It looks like, and I had a picture, sorry you can't see it, but it looks like somebody took all the yolk out of a turtle egg and then pressed it, and then took another turtle egg, took all the yolk out of it, pressed it, and then folded it inside the previous egg. And we haven't really been able to officially confirm that those are from hognose snakes. We think they're from hognose snakes, but we need to find a hognose snake that's like excreting one. We also didn't know officially if these things are vomited up like an egg-eating snake or if they are defecated out. So for this year, we are putting transmitters in 20 snakes. And one of the snakes that we grabbed on while I was out there had a belly full of eggs. And so we brought it back to the Airbnb, and it gets to like live in a tub until it goes to the vet. And I am happy to say that yesterday the thing crapped out eggshells. And so we now know that they defecate out the eggshells. And what's really funny is my grad student Paige, who was at Columbridge last year, she sent me a picture. Apparently she sent this to me Sunday night, but I was with the Westmorelands and I haven't checked my phone and all that jazz. And I was just sitting on my couch and lost my mind because there's the pile, there's the egg, eggs sitting in the tub. And I called her and I was like, so they crap them out? And she's like, yeah, we've known that. It's happened to me like 3 times. I was like, well, why the hell didn't you tell me that? Like, I've been sitting on, pins and needles trying to figure out this mystery. And then like a good graduate advisor, I was like, well, where are the eggs? And she's like, oh, I threw them away. I was like, get them. And she's like, what? I was like, get in the garbage and get the eggs. So she went to the garbage, she pulled them out. And now every time the snake defecates, we're going to be counting the eggs and kind of, lining that up with the size of this particular snake, weighing it, And we're just going to finally kind of add some light to this mystery of how the hell, like, where are the eggs coming from? How many eggs are they eating? Why are they moving on? But it's just kind of cool to know that, Colubrid Fest Research has figured out this mystery, and we're absolutely writing that up. That's going to be what's called a note that we're writing up in the fall. Another thing that happened on this trip is the baby hogs get into the traps. We didn't get anywhere near the number of hognose this trip as we did this same time last year due to the very dry conditions. I've talked on the show before about how they'll eat race runners, and they eat them like tacos. They fold them in half and slurp them down. This is something applicable to human care. They are eating race runners that weigh more than they do. So I want us all to think about that for a second. We're feeding our hogs, a pinky mouse a week, a pinky mouse every 3 to 4 days. And in the wild, they're eating these lizards that are bigger than them. I don't even know how the hell they get them down. And we don't purposely make them regurgitate. I actually feel really bad when they regurgitate. But they, when they do the thanatosis, the death feigning, they'll just yak up whatever's in their stomach. And so on this trip, we have some really cool data. And that's another note that I'm going to be writing up. That's my note. That is this like crazy interaction between the lizards and the hognose babies, because I've always been taught that they eat frogs and toads. We have not had any evidence that they are eating toads. I'm not saying they don't eat toads, and other populations absolutely do eat toads. But at this population, all we've seen are lizards. That's it. We've only seen the race runners going down their throats. So that's a pretty cool observation. And then the final observation on hognose before we jump to racers is we had 2 hogs over winter. They died at their brumation site. And so that sucks. That's a loss. But as scientists, you try to make an opportunity out of everything nature gives you. That's kind of a key dogma or mantra, if you will, of field biologists. So they still have transmitters. Their transmitters are still pinging. So we're able to basically exhume them from the ground and see, like, where are they hibernating or brumating? How deep are they going? And so the hero of the day, our collaborator out there named Don, Don saved exhuming the hogs for me. So thank you, Don. And we were all under the impression, they're going to be 24, 20 inches underground. Because right before I went out, I got done reading all the Eastern hognose snake lit to get ready to write this chapter I'm writing this week. And in it, a couple people had found Eastern hognose snakes underground, and that was the record, 28 inches deep. To my knowledge, might not be true, but I have not been able to find any information on how deep Westerns dig, how far they go underground, anything like that, because this is one of the first radiotelemetry studies. It's not 28 inches. I am thanking Don, because if I would have dug the hole Don dug in the prairie, I would be dead from a heart attack. The first female hognose was 52 inches underground.
Wow.
So, and I got a picture. You can see the roots. You can see the loose sand. And she basically dug until she hit this thing called hardpan, which is where the sand becomes so consolidated that it's like quickcrete. So she was there. And then we had another male that was pushing 4 feet underground. So the next time we put a monocle and a top hat on a hognose snake and talk about booping its snoot, I would really like us to start viewing these animals for the wonderful, quirky elements of prairie ecology that they are, because these things deserve a lot more respect. I mean, I'm starting to get offended. I know that captive hognose snakes do really dumb things. I have them. I've seen them. The whole nom 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 thing. But the wild ones, no. It's like, it's a false equivalency. It's like saying a Pekingese dog is a beautiful example of a freaking wolf. Like, and the wolf would eat the Pekingese. Like, that's just the way it would go down. So the wild masochists, nothing like these derpy inbred morphs that we have that do real dumb things. They are not. They're incredible animals. They're blowing. Like, I knew I was going to have some fun discoveries, but everything with these animals is just extreme. Like they're eating the eggs, they're eating the lizards, they're digging multiple feet underground. So that was all pretty cool. And then the final thing, this year we added blue racers, and my grad student Alyssa will be at Colubrid Fest. I can't wait for her to give her talk at Colubrid Fest, just for the absolute misery she is going through with this project. So we put transmitters and racers. What could possibly go wrong with that? These are snakes that basically just move. That's what they do. And what's been really weird about the racers is their movement pattern so far, it doesn't make sense. They have like a home range, which is pretty normal. Basically, like you take 2 or 3 football fields, smash them all together. That's kind of their normal home range. That's fine. And then on like a random Wednesday, they're just like, yeah, I'm going to go 1.5 miles that way. And they just, boom, beeline to a completely different habitat. And then they set up shop there. And then they've got this like football field thing. And then like, nope, I'm going back. And then shoom, 1.5 miles back. So the students that are doing the racer work are getting their steps in because we currently have 14 or 15 with transmitters. So every day, because you basically alternate. So one day you do 7, the next day you do 7. And basically we had to give, funded by Colubrid Fest, the receivers, which are the little boxes that have the antenna. There's 3 people on that crew, and they all go out. And well, 2 of them go out, 1 stays back and rests. And then basically one of them will be like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I have no clue where it's at. And then they get like tapped out. And they're doing that 6-7 hours every single day until it gets too hot. That's the only thing that basically makes them come out. So sorry we couldn't show pictures, but incredible work. We just completely up-leveled everything this year. Like last year, I'm proud of what we did last year, but like this is legit. There's 9 of them out there all summer long, and only 1 or 2 of them is off the prairie on a given day. So every single day, if they work 6 to 8 hours, that's 42 hours of work minimum each person hours each day. So we're getting tons and tons and tons of really cool data. Bull snakes are also moving right now. They're gravid and they're dropping eggs, which is super cool. So yeah, no, I'm super impressed with everybody out there. I want to give one more shout out to Dr. Josh, Jim, and Don, because they basically take care of my students while I'm away, and Laura, Jim's wife. Really good things are happening out there. I guess there's one other quick thing. So the other PhD that's there studies turtles. I'm the snake guy. Josh is the turtle guy. And they're like, you want to go noodling? And I was like, excuse me? And they're like, yeah, we swim in this thing called the dredge, where they dredged out a pond. And we basically shove our hands down into the muck until we find a turtle, and we grab it and pull it out and take it to the bank. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to go noodling. The hillbilly blood is strong in me. So I have to say, it is pretty interesting to be wallowing around in 2 feet of water you can't see anything in, over top of 16 inches of mud, which has about 4 inches of fish bones in the bottom of it, which are surprisingly sharp little bastards. And you're shoving your hands in like this, and then all of a sudden you hit something solid, and you realize that it's a snapping turtle that's got a shell that's like 15 inches long. And it's like here. It's not it's like at your face. I had way too much fun doing that. We got lots of turtles. I don't even know how many turtles we caught, but yeah. So that's our science update. Once again, go to RGI, check out the new website, and please purchase something to help the McNamaras and RGI.
And our coupon is still valid at RGI.
Yes. True that. Okay, I'm going to take this.
Real quick, Zach, I want to say, I would have expected the eggshells to be regurgitated. Mm-hmm. I would have had that wrong if I was betting on how those were expelled. And 2, I'm just curious, do you, or is there a current theory on why the racers are doing what they're doing with the zip over, new range, zip back, previous range?
No clue.
Any method to that madness?
I think that racers are just so opportunistic with everything that ecology works for them. This, I can be active in the heat of the day. Not that they're like zooming around at 2, but they are moving a little deeper into the day than we thought they were. They eat anything. If it is a vertebrate and they come across it, they will try to eat it. So if you think about it, if you're an opportunistic predator and you can eat anything you bump into, it doesn't make sense for you to be a sit and wait predator. It just makes sense for you to be out in your ecosystem moving around, because you're going to increase the probability of finding a prey item. And then the other thing, I think it was yesterday, Alyssa, the grad student, said, "Hey, they're mating." And I was like, "What do you mean they're mating?" I thought they would mate in the spring, but sure enough, they're mating now. So I've not heard of snakes mating, colubrids mating this time of year. So it also is going to increase the likelihood of you finding mates if you're a male. But these things use everything. They're using dead logs. They're up in cedar trees. They're in the prairie proper. They're in the dunes. Like, they're everywhere. And one area they really like is there's a berm, because the Mississippi River is pretty close. And one interesting thing is that they're going from this like pristine natural habitat, which is the sand dunes and the prairie, and then they are migrating between that and what we call the berm, which is just basically an earthen levee to help the Mississippi River not get to where they're at. And the berm is like hell on earth. It's just exposed sand. I think I showed a picture the last time of Alyssa with her thumbs up, and that that was the first snake we had tracked to the berm. What's been interesting is about 6 of the 14 are now living on the berm. And we're asking the question, like, why the hell would you live on the berm? This place is horrible. But it's not really that crazy to think about, because there's just so much available prey. And you can dip down to the Mississippi and you got this forest there, which is loaded with plenty of things for them to eat. So, but it's going to show, it just shows how much these animals move. They move a lot. They are not sessile. They're moving all the time.
Very interesting. Very cool.
Okay.
I like it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to move to our guest segment.
Yes.
All right. Guest segment is, as always, brought to you by ReptiChip. As we know, we use ReptiChip here at Metazotics for boas, pythons, as well as any of our colubrids that we want to keep on a higher humidity substrate. Zac, I know that he uses it out there for egg incubation. We also use the Repti Earth for our nest boxes here. So if you are if you're looking for coconut product, please go to ReptiChip. Check them out. Let them take.
Yep. Oh no.
Oh, you're back.
Okay. Storms are still moving through.
All right.
Okay. So are we bringing on PJ?
We're ready for PJ.
Okay, cool. I didn't hear any of that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hi, PJ.
It was really good, Zac. I nailed it.
Yeah.
So,
PJ's here. Okay. If PJ's saying you nailed it, I'll go with PJ.
Yep. I'm going to go buy some ReptiChip right now. That's what I thought.
Okay, perfect. All righty. So PJ, as all, we love you. You're part of the Colubrid CCR family. You were on before, and we asked, how did you get into this? So if you want to learn PJ's original backstory or the original collection, please listen to that episode. But since you were on our show to now, there were some ups, there were some downs, and now you're here today. So do you want to give people an update since your last time on CCR?
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to keep it quick because I've told the story in a little bit more lengths on the Colubrid Corruption podcast.
Perfect.
You guys had me on, I want to say it was maybe early 2023, and late summer.
It was my very first episode.
That's right. Yeah.
Co-host. So yes, you will always be near and dear to my heart, PJ.
Likewise, for many reasons, my friend. All right. So late summer of 2023, started seeing some weird symptoms in my collection, which ended up being a full crypto outbreak. Long story short, ended up being a total loss of that collection, which was major gut punch, to put it That's an understatement. I know, Clint, you helped me through a lot of that time, talking me through things and encouraging me. And I took some time away, about a year away, with no snakes, just kind of out of the hobby. I was handmade herps at that time as my business. I'm the Scaled Life now, but I even deleted that Instagram that I had at that time and just needed to completely unplug, kind of check myself, figure out what I wanted to do with my life, because my passion that I love so much had experienced real heartbreak, and kind of slowly healed over that year. And then Colubrid Fest 2024, the very first Colubrid Fest, I knew I wanted to be there, and that was really kind of like the kickstart back into things.
Oh, cool.
Both of you guys were extremely pivotal in this, of hooking me up with some animals when I was ready to start playing with some things again. And can't thank you guys enough for that. Really owe it to you guys for getting me back going on my passion again. So that's bringing us to 2024. And over the past couple of years, I kind of had this weird clean slate where I had all this past experience, but no animals in my collection, and got to start playing around and figuring out what I liked. That included some different groups and species that I'd never really worked with before. And ultimately, the way my collection is taking shape now is predominantly old world rat snakes, especially 100-flower rats, Russian rat snakes. I've got some rhinos, quite a few porfs. And then Drymarkin were new to me this time around. I've got a pair of Yucatan black-tailed cribos, so the high reds, and a pair of the Guerrero Mexican indigos, and a few pits as well, a couple bull snake projects, and some Ocean County northern pines as well. They're from Old City Serpents reduced pattern line. So some nice high, clean whites on them. So some good variety this time around. And I've managed to build back a collection that I really love and I'm really proud of, and back doing the passion.
Really glad too that you stepped back in this direction. As I remember telling you, whenever you were going to take your break, that it's completely understandable, 100% understandable. But if in any hobby, discipline, any group of people, any community, you need as many good people as possible in it. And PJ, you're definitely one of them. So
Hell yeah.
You stepping back in it's definitely a benefit to us all that are in this community, because you bring a level of ethics, a level of maturity, and just calmness. There's no drama with PJ. So very, very happy to have you back, buddy.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because we've also talked with Joe, and we mentioned Joe on the last episode, and he's where you were in 23 now.
Yeah.
What you mentioned Colubrid Fest, so thank you for that. But when you made the decision, all right, we're doing this again, what, with the experience that went down where you were like, yeah, I got to get out, was there a weird calmness? Not weird, that's the wrong word. Was there a calmness in that decision, or was there trepidation in that decision? And can you just talk a little bit about that?
I'd say really a mix of that, because it was so healing to start getting back into it. The first time I had baby colubrids back in my house and got to feed them and watch them eat a pinky, I was almost crying in my little, what was the mini snake room at that time, which was how healing that experience was, and starting to see that passion coming back. But I was back with a lot more wisdom and caution of where I was getting things, not kind of approaching any weird things that might pop up with a guilty until proven innocent mentality. Rather than when I initially had the animal that I think brought crypto into my old collection, I didn't know much about the disease. It just looked like, some regurges, that happens sometimes. And it also wasn't that textbook story of everything was dead in a single week. Like it spreads and it acts much differently than that. So I felt more educated now, and just wanted to, proceed with caution.
Gotcha. And then, do you know which crypto you had? Was it Serpentis or Variant?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm glad that crypto didn't kick you out, because one of the things that we are preaching is, like, it happens to people. Mm-hmm. It's not a scarlet letter. It shouldn't be a scarlet letter. It doesn't mean you're a bad keeper. It just simply means you purchased a snake that had crypto.
Yeah.
You know,
they can go for years and not show a sign. You know what I mean?
It can happen to anybody, and it can come from anybody. So
that's the big message right there that I would say too is, there's going to be individuals and tables that you look at and you think, yeah, something on this table's got it. You know what I mean? But even, the names that we know, we trust, we love, it can be any of us, any animals that get brought in, it's got to go through the quarantine, because any of us can have it. I think, my statement to Zach, and I think I said this on the last episode we were talking about, Joe, that, I have tested numerous animals, at this point. Anytime I've had a suspect tested, they've all come back negative. And I've told Zach, that's just because I haven't tested the right one yet. At some point, somewhere, it's going to happen. With all of us, with big collections, it's going to be somewhere. Luckily, we've got ours divided into separate rooms and all that. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the point that I think anyone needs to take away is it can happen to anyone, and it can come from anyone.
Yeah, put no one on a pedestal. Quarantine is super important. Testing is super important. You can't just trust the visual observations that you're seeing from those animals. You need to do the testing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. Could I ask, all right, final question. Are you done with the building process? Like, do you think you have what you're going to have, or are you still?
Yeah. I've gotten a lot of the passion projects that I wanted back, or those new things I wanted to explore, and really nothing out there is tugging at my heartstrings right now. And I've got a lot to be done with what I have. A lot of it's growing up, and I'm going to be absolutely drowning in all these like Russian rat snake projects that no one else is going to want but me in a couple of years. So I'm gonna tap it there and make sure I can manage that when that happens.
All right, perfect. Okay, well, Max, before we head to the husbandry section of this, the 100-flower rat snake talk, let's see the message from ZooMed, one of our wonderful sponsors.
CCR is proud to be sponsored by ZooMed Laboratories.
ZooMed has been servicing the reptile industry since 1977, and in 1993, they introduced us to the Repticide, the very first UVB bulb specifically for reptiles.
In addition to boasting a 1,200-item product line, ZooMed also has an extensive reptile breeding program, with many species being kept at their incredible greenhouse facility located in California.
Thank you, ZooMed, for supporting Colubrid and Colubrid Radio. Okay, so before we go any further, I want to tell the world how this episode came to be, because I feel like everybody needs to know. So if you are a collaborator with Patreon, which we encourage you to do, we do a monthly Zoom call. And in said Zoom call this last time, we said, what species would you all like to hear about? And PJ threw out moellendorffi. And then I said, oh, who do you know that keeps those? And then PJ said, I did. And now he's here. So
careful what you wish
for. Process, guys.
It's also been an episode that has been requested numerous times. And I will tell you, not just from people interested in, how to take care of them. From a business side, I get asked constantly if I work with them, if we've got any available, are we expecting any? So it's the popularity of these little redheads, continues to grow. So it was definitely due. This episode was due. So
sure. So, but before we go any further, Elaphe, I'm pretty sure it's Elaphe moellendorffi, 100-flower rat snake. We all know Asian rat snakes. There's the Taiwan beauties, blue beauties. the Grabowski's beauties, the cave racers. Then you have your Diones, twin spots. You've got your bamboos, king rats, but Japanese rat snakes, things like that. But I've always felt like moellendorffs are like all over here in their own little island. And I remember going to the Columbus show back in the late 90s, and there was an importer table. And I would always go to that table and look, and they would be okay, in the imports. And then I started to see the captive bred ones. Like, oh, okay, maybe. And that were the one rat snake I tried to get, got close to, and never owned them. Clint bought a clutch, and it didn't go well. So he's going to learn a lot tonight.
They were gifted to me.
They were gifted. Okay, I thought you bought them.
And I killed every damn one of them. They had no will to live. I tried everything to get these things to eat, and nothing would work for me. So we failed miserably. So I don't expect to have any of these at Metazotics anytime soon.
So with that, that's just letting the world know that these are challenging species. And PJ not only kept them, but I believe you bred them, correct?
Yeah, for 3 years in my old collection. And I have a trio going this year as well.
Oh, cool. So with that being said, do you mind just kind of telling us, before we go any further, the story of how you got into them in the first place? And
yeah,
and whether you had babies, juvies, growing those guys up, and then we'll dive into the husbandry.
For sure. Yeah. So like you and like many people probably watching, they were that holy grail species for me that I thought I'd always keep my eye open for, but always seemed like, oh, no, they're too expensive, or they're too rare. I'll never actually have them. And a buddy of mine who's more of a gecko guy, he happened to have a pair that he'd been trying to breed for a couple of years and just didn't really have any success. And he knew that I was having plenty of success with some of the other old world species I was working with, and asked if I just wanted to take those on him from loan and give them a go. And I did that, and sure enough, had success breeding those the very first year. I think they were about 5 or 6 years old at that time when I got them. So I actually suspect that might have been part of his struggle, as these seem to be a species that has to be quite a bit older, that 5 to 6 year mark, before they start breeding for the first time. And then they produced the next, so 3 years in total for me while I had them. 100% fertility, great clutches.
So can you walk us through just the basic husbandry of them?
Yep. Yeah, so I am much more of a rack guy. I prefer like oversized rack tubs as opposed to like a front opening cage. So I have had I picked them in the past in CV70s. It's just too small. I've used the ARS 80 series racks, like those a lot better. I've actually got one of those I just ordered last week. So as soon as that gets here, we'll be setting that up for my trio that I got this past year. And like many of the old world rats, ambient around room temps, high 60s to low 70s. Hot spot, I don't offer anything more than 78 if it's belly heat, 80 if it's back heat. These are naturally like a cave dwelling species. They might come out into the forest for a little bit, but are usually spending time in those cooler, more stable temperatures. So that I have heard of, they don't do a lot of like come out in the sun and bask in the heat.
Yeah.
So they will climb given some opportunity. I like to put a lot of, clutter within that tub, so they've got things to navigate around, but they especially like really tight hides. So cork flats are a great option. They like the natural texture of that. They can sit on top of it, but they'll also hide underneath it. And they like that, to have that hide like touching their back, like pinning them between the substrate and the hide, as opposed to a dome hide where there's still space. And they need some good humidity, obviously coming from a cave system, humidity, but also ventilation. So make sure they're in a well-ventilated enclosure, whatever that is. And they eat quite a wide variety of prey. Rodents as a staple is great. They do great with chicks and quail as well. I, in the past, had offered frog legs. I'd never got mine to take any, but I imagine that some might, because I bet in caves they come across a lot of amphibians. One of the natural prey species is bats. It's a pretty common one for them. don't know too many frozen thawed bat breeders here, nor would I probably.
I struggled, PJ. That's where I struggled.
Yeah, that's probably it. But I've seen, actually, there's a picture in Dr. Messenger's book of a Moellendorff rat snake clinging to the stalactites, like crawling upside down in the ceiling of a cave, hunting bats. And that's just super cool.
That's cool.
So, yeah, that in a nutshell is the general husbandry setup. I always brumated mine when I bred them. The general will get them down to 50 to 55 for a couple months, and then they seem to do well with low stress and low disturbance. So both when I was trying to breed or when I'm trying to get babies started, it's just get a routine, get a cycle, know the tricks, keep repeating those, and try not to disturb them so much. But they're fun. They're easy to work with. They're beautiful. They handle pretty well. They can definitely get like hissy, but I've never had adults be bitey with me. Partly knowing how to read them and not giving them the chance, and partly they're just really not that aggressive. And the babies are more runners than strikers as well.
How big do these guys get?
I'd say the average adult, and they're not going to reach that max size till they're maybe 7 to 8 years old. So 5 to 6 years old when they start breeding, they still got some growing to do. But that true adult size, you're looking at 6 or 7 feet. I think I've heard of some individuals in that 8 to 9 foot range. Males seem to max out larger than females do.
Okay.
And for that old pair I used to have, I received them. They were about the same size. And then over the next 3 years, the female grew, but she was putting a lot of energy into breeding and egg production. But the male just grew even more. And I never measured him nose to tail, but would estimate he was in that 7 to 8 foot range.
Gotcha.
Are there any noticeable different, like, just curious, this is something we don't really ask often, but with a lot of the rat snakes, North American for sure, I'm able to look at the tail and get a pretty good idea whether it's a male or female even before probing. But then things like the porfs, I look at them, there's no difference in any of that. You notice anything, any tail length difference, shape, just anything between the male and female?
I haven't looked super closely just because I'm not used to tail sexing a lot of other species like that. I'm usually a popper or prober. But yeah, I'll have to take a look at the trio I've got now and see if I notice anything.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we go on to the whole breeding, eggs, incubation, as far as feeding is concerned, did you feed your adults like a typical colubrid, like a mouse, small rat kind of deal? Did they get once a week kind of deal during the active season, or is metabolism a little slower since it takes them so long to get adult size? Anything on that?
So let's see. They do seem to prefer prey on the smaller side. They're a pretty slender bodied snake for being so long. And I know there were times where I tried offering like a small rat instead of a jumbo mouse or something. And on occasion that would get refused, but then I'd offer the jumbo mouse right away and they'd take that. So they seem to like some smaller prey sizes. My male, when I was breeding, I'd feed him just once a week. And then the female is usually feeding twice a week, like the same moderate size prey item. I think that food cycling really helped with breeding success as well, because again, in the cave systems, I'm assuming that Asian cave systems, the temps are kind of more stable throughout the year and not as much cycling. So, but perhaps food availability is cycling, and they just need that for egg production anyways. And for babies as well, they can take a pinky mouse right out of the egg if they are willing. We'll get into that in a moment. But as far as size goes, they can take that. And they seem to grow incredibly slowly for like that first year to 18 months, where they almost don't look like they were any bigger than they were the day they hatched. But as soon as they start getting at that like peach fuzzy and fuzzy size mouse, the growth rate just explodes, and they grow much more quickly after that.
Man.
So are you co-having, or does everything have its own cage with these?
No, it's all got its own. And I just, since I right now have a trio, 1 male and 2 females, I am typically like pairing on Sundays and separating on Wednesdays. And each week I rotate which female that male is going with.
Is there a time of year that you're doing that, or are you, because you mentioned that you're thinking that the temperature should kind of probably the same throughout the year. Is that how you're doing it, or any other steps?
Yeah. So when I bring them out of brumation, I treat really all my stuff pretty much the exact same with that kind of pairing and separating pattern. I don't see a lot of locks throughout the breeding season, but I get clutches. I just am not one that's like watching them or checking in on them. I'd rather just have my routine and continue that until I'm like, yeah, okay, she's gravid, we're good to go. So when I maybe mid-March is when I would start pairing, and then just keep going until I'm sure that the female is ready. And that's another difference with these guys. Like I do a lot of palpating to figure out if females are growing follicles or getting near gravid. And with these guys, they don't really palpate easily. They, again, are a pretty slender but firm body snake. Mm-hmm. And they have that real, almost like the Gonyosoma, that real like arch with the flat bottom. And they like won't let you in to actually get your finger up in that belly. So when the female is gravid, though, the scale stretch is incredibly noticeable. And it seems like she stays that way for a long, long time before she ever actually goes into that prelay shed. So that's usually the surefire way to tell. It seems like it's an ovulation swell for like a month.
Oh, man. Okay. Final question on adults. Typical substrate like aspen, or giving them more moisture with mulch?
Yeah, I use cocoa chip is preferred. Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, so we did substrate, husband or size of the enclosure, temperatures, feeding schedule, food, all the stuff for the adults. Now we're going to move on to breeding.
Well,
and so
sorry.
So with the breeding, the typical recipe: put them down around Thanksgiving, bring them up at Valentine's Day, slap them together, hope for the best kind of thing, or different?
Yeah, no, it's pretty typical. I mean, my personal schedule, I would stop feeding like October 1st, and I like to give my snakes 3 or 4 weeks to clear out before cooling them down. So late October through February, I'm trying to keep them as cool as possible in that 50 to 55 range. A little cooler is fine. And beginning of February, I start gradually warming them up for 2 weeks. And by Valentine's Day, we're offering meals.
Okay, cool. And do they go together Valentine's Day, or do you give them like a couple weeks?
I like to get a meal or two before I start pairing. Just make sure everyone's metabolizing and looking for a healthy year.
And pairing before any sheds or anything like that, right?
Yep. Again, like I just figured, give them the time together and they will do it when they're ready. I don't need to stay tuned in and track every little nuance.
Cool.
Agreed.
All right. We got a gravid moellendorffi. What are we doing now? What's the egg box look like? Do they use the egg box if given to them, or?
Yep. So friends don't let friends use clear egg boxes, right?
There you go.
So I've heard that somewhere.
I have in the past, and it works. I didn't have any egg retention issues. But yeah, they do like to dig down and hunker down. So make it a tall enough egg box that they can get a little depth in there. But yeah, your standard egg box setup that's working for your other species should work just fine for these. I didn't really notice anything special. And like I mentioned, they'll go through that very swollen period for a long time, and you're going to wonder when they're going to start going into blue, but eventually they do. And I don't have records to remember like how long it was between shed and oviposition, but just have that egg box ready. She'll spend a lot of time in there and will eventually lay. And average egg size, I think you're typically looking at 8 to 12. I want to say when I had eggs the first 2 years, it was 10. And the third year, maybe 11 or so.
Cool. Okay.
Gotcha. What's
Talk about
incubation
these
like for you? Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. So for incubation, first off, a note about the eggs. They're a lot thicker shelled, more hard shelled than a lot of other colubrid eggs are. If you've worked with beauty rats, like I had Taiwans as well, and those were noticeably thick, but these were even thicker. And so that made candling difficult, but they looked good. So I couldn't, at least with the light that I was using, wasn't bright enough to really shine through and see a definite embryo. But if they look good, I set them all up, and I don't think you need to do anything like special like your womas for all this substrate lasagna. You can just, again, whatever's working for your other colubrids and old world rats should work great for these. So at that time, those days I was using either Hatchright or vermiculite. Both worked great. I don't do the bury the egg halfway or all the way in the substrate thing. I just nestle it down a little bit to keep it from rolling. And I incubated them at 78 degrees. And this is where there will be one big difference. The incubation duration was upwards of 90 days.
At 78, 90 degrees, really?
Yep. Yeah, they were typically laying the second week of July and not hatching until like Tinley time and second week of October.
So it just sounds like wait.
They're a species that will cultivate patience. Take a long time to grow up, long time to incubate, and as we'll talk about in a moment, can take a long time to start feeding.
Well, and it's probably why we don't see as many readily available.
Sure.
Other species too.
Okay. So these guys are rather infamous for the way they hatch out of their egg.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you would just kind of talk about that, that would be cool.
So their egg looks pretty standard. I mentioned it's a thicker, harder shell, but it's that traditional oblong egg shape. And most snakes will cut through the side of that egg. You'll see the pip coming out. With these guys, the polar ends of the egg, they like bust out of one side of that. And again, it's not a little cut out. It's almost like peeling open a banana. You'll see these little splits, and they will just like push and emerge their nose through that and eventually crawl out.
Okay. How long does it take them? Like, you get a pip. Do they just pip, boom? Or is it a pip in the next 2 days? Like the falsies will pip, and that means nothing. You're not seeing that snake for another day and a half. Easy.
Yep. Yeah, kind of same timeline for these guys. Okay. I imagine with that hard shell, it takes quite a bit of energy to get the nose out and pipped through. So they were usually sitting there a couple more days before they were eventually emerging from the egg.
All right. So now they're out.
Pretty big babies when they come out.
Yep.
How big is a baby once out?
Man, again, I don't know. Was never really measuring them, but I'm trying to put something to relate it to. I mean, similar to like if anybody's worked with any of the beauty rats, the Taiwans, the blue beauties, some pretty massive chunky babies, you're going to be looking at something similar where they could, if they wanted to, be taking a large pinky mouse as their first meal.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about that first meal.
Mm-hmm.
So this is...
You're talking about that first meal.
If they have it.
Before we talk about that meal, let's talk about how you set them up. How do you, what do your baby says?
Yep. So I can tell you what I did in the past and what I do now. So I used a lot of the Reptile Basics racks. So in the past, I've tried the hatchling tubs that they've got. There's like the little thin pencil case ones, or the ones that are the double wide version of that. I've tried both of those, thinking like small, secure. They want that low stress. And I had ultimately settled on using that double wide hatchling tub, and I'd use paper towel substrate in there. Eventually I swapped that out for the baby chip from ReptiChip and gave them some real flat little cork bark hides in there. And that works pretty well. as far as things go. But I found that they were still like, it seemed like they were getting nose rub. They seemed to be like very active, but yet spend a lot of time hiding as well. So with hatchlings I've been working with more recently, I set them up in I think it's like the 8-quart tub in the DE6 racks. So it's a full-size long tub. Make sure you use a shim to wedge that thing up, because they totally could squeeze through that gap, given the opportunity. But again, set them up with rep chip, nice water bowl, a couple cork flats in there, both back on the warm side and kind of in the middle. And I like to also have some sort of little flat tray in there. So when I offer food, I can just open up and leave it right in there and not have to worry about it getting lost in the substrate or disturb them much. Because again, that low disturbance seems to be useful in getting them to eat.
Man. So what do they eat?
Yeah.
If you're going to get them to eat.
Sure. So from my experience, I tried a couple different like scenting things, and nothing seemed to like be the magic bullet there. And even all these rodent-based techniques I'm going to talk about in a moment, nothing seemed to be the magic bullet that worked for everything. You just have to have this arsenal of tricks to try. And again, just find the routine that works and stick with it, and cultivate patience, because some of them will take a while. So one of the first things to keep in mind when you're going into this is to try as little as possible to not care if they live or die, because the more that you care, what I mean by that, obviously you want to live, you want to care, but the more that you care, the more anxious you'll be, the more things you'll try, the more you'll stress them out and not set them up for success. So let's just start going through kind of the options. Of course, you could try frozen thawed or live pinky mice right away. Some of them might have success shortly after hatching. However, even ones that had success for me doing that seemed to get really spotty on feeding over the winter. So I found most success just brewmating them pretty much right away. Again, they hatched in October, so that was great timing to just let them have a couple weeks at room temp to clear out that yolk belly. And then I put them all in brumation in a group tub together, down to that same 55 degrees. Like I put them on top of the stack, so they were a little higher, maybe stayed slightly warmer than the adults, and just let them sit through the winter. And then started trying these tricks when they came out in the spring and things were warming up. So frozen thawed or live mice, try those first. If that doesn't work, brained pinks tended to have pretty high success. Again, take that. I think most people listening might be familiar with braining, but if not, you're taking your frozen thawed pinky mouse. I use like a little push pin thumbtack and just poke like right through the forehead, give it a light squeeze, and you get some of those juices to come out. Then I use the tack to like spread that around the head, and I put that on that tray that I set in their tub. I've never had success tongue feeding or tease feeding babies early on, always just by setting it kind of later in the day. They're more of a crepuscular species, so you can get it like slightly before it's getting dark and just leave them overnight. Don't even check it first thing the next morning. Sometimes they need that time to eat. So just wait till sometime later the next day and check on them. So braining is an option. Another one that's kind of a step up from that is decapitated frozen thawed pinky mouse, where it's just a more extreme version. Literally just take a pair of scissors and cut the entire head off that frozen thawed pinky mouse. And then I would, again, squeeze and spread the juices from each half onto each half. And my theory with that is not only it like makes it smell a lot more enticing from all of the internal juices that are all over it, but it makes it a slightly smaller prey size. I mentioned I noticed adults seeming to prefer smaller prey. I'm wondering if, even though these guys are bigger hatchlings, if they want that slightly smaller prey size. So again, I mentioned I tried like some fish scenting, some frog scenting, some chick scenting. When I've worked with them in the past, never had experience with that. So at this point, those rodent techniques, I would just keep offering them, keep trying those out, not disturbing them for weeks. And I was okay with letting them get pretty hungry before I started taking more invasive measures. So first invasive measure I would try is feeding a section of a like cut rat tail or mouse tail. And the goal here is not really to like provide them substantial nutrients. You're really not going to get that. But I want to just do something that's going to kickstart their metabolism and hopes that they'll get hungry and then take one of these other offerings. So I like to cut like right towards the butt section of the tail, just like a small little inch or less. There's more like meat to the tail higher up. And then when feeding that, if you haven't done this before, just make sure that you're going in the direction so that like the base of the tail is first going in the mouth, so that those hairs on the rat tail or mouse tail you're going with the grain so it slides in smoothly, because those hairs are directional. If you feed the other way, they will act like barbs and make it very difficult for that tail to go in. So I would feed that mouse tail, push it in with the forceps so it's like just kind of past the neck, and then very lightly, gently set them down and just close the tub. I only had to do this with like maybe 3 individuals over the course of time when I was working with them in the past. And for 2 out of those 3, it worked with kickstarting them. I gave them maybe 5 days and then offered a brain pink, and they took then. One of them, those individuals just never ended up eating and did pass, but it's really better than Clint's average. So
yeah, I must think just one, huh?
Okay. So they're eating now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to add one more thing here, because this year I'm working with some hatchlings that a buddy sent me as non-feeders. He tried all the tricks. Nothing worked. He sent them to me. They ate the first offering. So I've had, I've heard other species where people do like the fake shipment thing, and they like box them up and take them for a ride in the car on errands, and don't leave them in your hot car, of course.
I can't
explain back that. And set it back up, and it seems to trigger something. So it's worth a shot.
That aspect of snake keeping has no basis in science. It makes no sense.
I've experienced it though.
I've used it. I used it unintentionally. I had Eastern hogs up at the university, and they came to me eating rodents, and then they went off rodents, and I was at my wit's end, and I was like, I got to get these to my house, because I was actually assist feeding them, and did the same thing. Put them in the car, drove 18 minutes home, put them in their tubs. And on a whim, I was like, I'm just going to give them their tuna dipped fuzzy and see what happens. And they never ate for over a year at the school. And then right away, boom. I'm just like, why does this work? That was my first experience.
It's weird. I've had it happen where I've sent them to, someone who puts them in the exact same rack system, I mean, that I had them in, boom, and it works. I've had customers come in, their snake hasn't eaten in 4 months, and I will literally set it in a tub, offer it prey, bam. But no, not with moellendorffi. So that didn't work here for me. Okay. But yeah, it's wild how often a car ride works for them. So I can't explain it either.
So the babies are eating. What is the frequency of feeding? Is it just a normal like baby colubrid every 5 days kind of deal, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm typically doing closer to 7 days, but I think they'd have no issue with 5 days. They're more than ready at that time. On occasion, I have offered more frequently, going for that 5 day mark, and they do great. So
basically, the pinky mice, until they get to the point of the fuzzies, they're now eating the fuzzies and they take off, or hoppers and they take off.
Yeah, it's somewhere between that like peach fuzzy to small hopper size, where the growth rate really seems to take off. And I'll add to that. I was talking about with the hatchlings how low disturbance you want to be with offering them food. Once you've got them feeding and they've eaten several frozen thawed, unscented, whatever meals. Start playing with their boldness, like open it up. You can get them to start, some of them will start to take off tongs. So some of the young ones I'm working with now, I'll open it up. They're usually sitting up on top one of the cork pieces, and I'll just offer it up to their nose, give them a couple seconds to smell. And if they look interested, might dance it around a little bit and have them take it off tongs. It's not necessarily a benefit to having them take it off tongs rather than drop feed. I think for a lot of us keepers, it's just one of those things that if they take it off tongs, you know they ate, you're good to go.
Yeah, no, I like it when they take it off the tongs more than when they do the drop feeding. But then again, that's why I keep king snakes, pits, and false water cobras with some Drymarkin sprinkled in there. Everything is, they're coming for your damn face because they're so excited. So I don't know if I'm going to be getting moellendorffs, but they do sound like fascinating animals. So you've got them eating now. You mentioned this whole pinkies, peach fuzzies, larger prey item, they start to go. Are they like your typical colubrids where when you do the upsize and prey, you get kind of a little burst of growth and then it starts to plateau, or do they just slow grow, period?
Yeah, so I have limited actual experience with the full life cycle of growth because I mentioned that original pair I had, I got as like 5 to 6 year olds.
Yeah,
the adult trio I have now, I bought as adults. I do have a pair of I got as 2024 hatchlings from a friend who hatched them out, and they had like nub tails. So these are just like pet only moellendorffs that I've been growing up, and that's exactly what I noticed with them. They had been on pinkies forever, growing really slow, got to fuzzies, they exploded. They're right at the point now where I can start offering hoppers, and they're probably a little over 2 feet long at this point. Okay. So I expect to see them starting to boom even more in growth.
So you've sent me on a little bit of a tangent here with my curiosity. When talking about them and preferring smaller prey items, but also thinking that, one of their primary food sources are bats. So I did this quick little bit just now, but for anybody who's listening to this and really wants to do the deep dive, because I started to cross-reference what bat species are in the same cave systems that these are found in, because I'm curious, because I was like, well, I wonder how big a baby bat is. And I mean, obviously you're going to have this range with these different species. Some are like 1.5 inches, 2 inches long, at birth. And there's these other ones that are, fraction of an inch. So just curious for anybody who wants to take that on. Would just like to know how big a baby bat that shares the range or, the limestone caves with these moellendorffi, how big they are. Because if it's not baby bats that they're starting off with, I'm just curious what their natural prey item is, at that size.
Yeah, something I've given thought to that as well. Again, I don't know what's in these caves, but knowing the size of the hatchlings, trying to imagine what's around there, I've almost wondered if like any insect prey.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Invertebrate prey. I haven't tried offering any worms or anything, but it would be a curious thing to figure out.
Very cool. Yeah.
So one issue that I oftentimes have with the more sensitive species that I keep is you're feeding them, they're growing, and you kind of get this like, oh, I can breathe. And then they get to that point where they're bigger than the tub and you got to move them. And there's the whole stress of taking them from smaller tub to the bigger tub. And then are they going to eat? Are they not going to eat? Is that an issue with these? Or is it once they start to eat?
Yeah.
Move them, leave them alone maybe a little longer than you would, get them a little hungry, and then go, and they're okay.
So since they grow so slow in that first year, that is plenty of time to get them established from like sensitive baby that will stop eating due to stress to the point of being totally bulletproof. Like I don't know exactly when it happens or how to observe it, but there's just a point where the consistency is there, and you really don't have to worry as much about those stress events throwing them off. And certainly by the time, if you start them in a large enough tub, by the time they need that next size up, they are totally bulletproof.
Okay, cool.
How do
Okay.
your adults respond to feeding? Like, does
So-
it become much more ravenous as they get older? Or are they
Yeah.
still laid back species? Or
No, they're pretty ravenous. The trio, the pair I used to have were both tongue feeders, really eager feeders as well. The trio I have now, one of the females is like, she's curious to see what's up, but then wants me to leave it for drop feeding. But the other female and the male are both like, watch your face when you're opening up the tub. Because, the one female is always like striking at her water in her water bowl because it moves when I open up, and she's ready.
God damn. Okay. And so then let's just talk a little bit about how old these things have to be to breed. That was the three things that I knew about them is they were hard to find, they hatch out the end of the egg, and they are pretty damn old for a colubrid at first breeding. Those are like, I think what most people know once they start to do a little bit of digging. Now, when you got your adults, I'm assuming they were already like at the 5 to 6 year range, like you said.
Yeah.
Because
I asked him how old they were exactly, and he's like, I can't really remember. So 5 to 6 years old is the scientific answer that we're going off of.
But you haven't raised anything. I mean, most species, you're breeding them at 3 or 4. So by the time these guys are having their first clutch, you've had 3 clutches out of a female of another taxa by that point. Okay. So it just sounds like you have to have a little bit of zen in your life to take, which I don't. I dwell in chaos. So I don't know if I could handle these. Man. All right. So then, do you know anything, or have you talked to anyone that may have done the naturalistic thing, or everyone you talked to was keeping them in tubs?
I have not talked to too many other naturalistic keepers, so that's certainly something I'd be interested to know more about, especially if anyone's tried to like replicate cave structure. That'd be really cool to see how they behave in that.
do you know of any other? Because I think I only know of 2 mutations with them off the top of my head: hypo and like patternless, I think.
Yep. There's hypo. The patternless is aberrant also.
Yeah.
It depends on how reduced it is and whether it really looks patternless or not. But yeah, those are kind of used interchangeably. So hypo and aberrant or patternless, those are the 2 that we commonly, or rather uncommonly, see. I know there has been, I think, both a T positive and T negative albino out there that like Rex Knight was working with back in the day. Or I saw some pictures floating around that Matt had. Someone is asking there's albino. Yeah, but I don't know if that is actually still a viable project that anybody is working with, to my knowledge.
Well, here's from our good friend Kirill in Israel. He says just hatched not too long ago.
Okay, cool. Does Kirill, do you know what country someone's working with those?
Yeah, I knew about the hypo. I didn't.
About to say the hypo, that's a good looking snake.
Yeah, I've got a young pair of the hypos now too.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Up all the way.
The aberrants don't really do much for me because I don't know. I think it's such a beautiful snake naturally that the aberrant pattern kind of takes away from what I like about it in the first place. But I do think the hypo, I mean, that makes a pretty stunning animal for sure.
Yeah, it makes it more of like a orange and lime green instead of the dusty red and dark green.
Yeah, Kirill says, I think the albino was produced in the U.S. It was in the general rat snake group. He's checking now. So there we go. Okay. Man. All right. So.
Yeah, there we go. Our former guest, Glenn from Glenn Reptiles.
He's who I got my hypos from.
And he produces these with some regularity, I believe.
So this past year was his first year producing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a pretty decent group of them, so I expect he'll be continuing to do so from here on out.
And we saw these in Pomona, didn't we? He had them on his table in Pomona. Yeah.
Yep. So just a fun PJ question. You had these in your collection, obviously, before, Crisis. Now we're in our redemption arc. Okay. And what about them, given all the things you mentioned, like they're kind of difficult to get to eat. They breed at an old age. They require a lot of patience, but they're obviously beautiful snakes, and they kind of have their own niche because they are unique. They're not like your everyday colubrid. What about them when you were rebuilding the collection made you say, I have to have these? Like, these are going to be part of the collection.
Why'd they make the cut?
Exactly.
Ironically, when I was initially starting to rebuild the collection, I'm pretty sure you could go back and listen to when I was on Joe's podcast in 2024, right after Colubrid Fest.
Mm-hmm.
I said something to the effect of, I am not going to keep 100-flower rat snakes again because they're such a pain in the butt. But there's 10 of them in my collection now.
Holy hell.
But
that's a rare snake too.
So I mentioned that pet only pair that I got. Those were from Matt. He, since I'd had experience getting those started, when those hatched out, he let me take those and just play with them, see if I could get them eating. And so that got them back in my hands, got me kind of another go around of rebuilding that belief in myself that, okay, yeah, these things suck, but I can do this. I can get them eating. And yeah, they're just too darn cool. I think I still have the question myself, like, why do they look like that? Like they live in these limestone caves. The rusty orange kind of makes sense. What's the green for? And why both? And why the red head and tail and the green body? And it, so I just still have a lot of like curiosity about them. And I think being that they were a challenge for me in my old collection, but I had like a decent level of success, I just want to crack the code and figure out how to get them to be successful more consistently.
Cool.
Because I think they really can and should be more available. We just need people that know what they're in for and know how to do it right. Give that, 5 to 10 years and you're going to see them available for anybody that wants them once we crack that.
No. Kirill says, for those in the car, Megan Day from Florida hatched the albino in October of 2025.
Okay.
So there's another snake, a Boyd, called the New World Python, Loxocemus bicolor.
Yeah.
And it just seems like a lot of what you hear about Loxocemus is directly applicable to the 100 flowers. Only they think they have to be even older. I feel like it's 8, 9, 10 before they reproduce.
Wow.
And it's like the long game snake.
Yeah, like a tortoise.
Yeah, exactly. And they're in Costa Rica. They actually live on the grounds of the wildlife sanctuary where we go. Zach Kaminsky, my former grad student, he did his thesis on tarantulas with Richard from the Tarantula Collective, who's quite literally less than a mile from where I'm sitting, which has always kind of freaked me out that there's two of us in little podunk wheeling. But anyway, he actually sent me a picture of a Loxocemus because he missed one during his thesis, and I told him, you're not going to graduate now because you missed that snake. So he graduated, of course. But I stayed away from Loxocemus because I'm like, I don't know if my ADHD, if I could last that long. So it's there. I feel like it's a special person has to take one of these guys from baby to adult and breed. And you obviously can do that. We have total faith in you pulling that one off. So yeah. So do you like this aspect of their biology, or does this is just another PJ question?
No, I like
that to you, or do you have the adults, and so the adults can kind of take the edge off as the others grow?
Yeah, that certainly helps. And I think as I was starting to rebuild my collection, that was one of the pain points of like, I had all these little baby snakes that I'm like, okay, I was used to this massive breeding collection, there's a few dozen. I was used to that full production collection, and suddenly I'm rebuilding. I've got hatchlings that are going to grow for 3 or 4 years before I'm ready to do any breeding that I was used to. So it has been nice to have some adults and things to work with to get that action going sooner. Get me back into the swing of things, because I think if I had just started with hatchlings and had to wait 5 or 6 years, that'd be a long wait. But you know how it is once your collection reaches a point where things are producing and more snakes each year are getting to size and producing, like you don't notice that long wait with the project species as much.
Yeah, sure.
It's always distracted by everything else that's going on.
No, I'm in my revision number 3 of my collection, and I made the decision, like, I am doing pits. I always wanted to do pits. They're my favorite. We're going to figure out how to keep them. We're not going to run away from them, just, not being able to keep them here. And during my building up, I've learned that exact thing about myself. I need to get some sub-adults and adults, and that'll take that edge off while the others are, growing up. And I think that's a pretty good strategy if you can pull it off. Do you think your adults are gravid now, or
so I have not seen like real obvious signs of gravid. And I mentioned my old pair always used to lay right around the second week of July.
Yeah.
We're in the second week of June, and I'm not seeing obvious signs, but I've been continuing to pair them, and just a couple days ago I did see that evidence of breeding from the male in the female's tub. So fingers crossed we can still make it happen. I know that some keepers like Andy Vick, he also has these and produces them, and he mentioned his clutch last year hatched around Christmas, whereas mine was hatching in October. So he was getting eggs quite a bit later in the season. So I'm just going to keep at it and hope for the best. And honestly, that's not going to be a terrible thing if a late clutch happens, if I'm planning to put them into brumation anyway.
Sure.
I don't think they likely need that full October to February brumation. If they hatch partway through the winter and get a shortened version, it'll probably be just as effective, because I think it's really the pressures of the warmer weather coming through that might be spurring them on to eat as hatchlings.
Do you know if Andy had issues getting hit? I know Andy well. If he had issues getting them going, or did he do basically what you're saying?
The same tricks, yeah. And in fact, he actually called me earlier and was talking about how well the rat tail trick has worked for him when he's needed. He's had total success as a last ditch effort with the rat tail trick.
Man, that's cool. Okay, final thoughts. A lot of times the people that do podcasts, we always joke, like, we do a podcast about a species, then we have to go get them, like that whole thing. And it sounds like there's a little bit of a cautionary tale here. Like, this is not that we want to turn people away from them, but this might be a snake that you might want to think a little, just because they're not overly common. They're becoming more common, but at the same time, not overly common. And we don't want to impulse buy these guys, because they're not going to handle that well, I don't think, unless you're prepared for everything we just talked about.
It also sounds like this is a species that it's better to, I mean, we can say this about most species, but it's better to get this from someone who is working with them.
Yes.
So that you have, you want it to be an individual that is going to allow themselves to be a resource for you throughout your keeping of the species.
Yeah, so that all brings some really good topics to mind with my experience of selling hatchlings years ago. Because they were definitely one of those species where, like, I had a meeting, drop fed, unscented, frozen, thawed consistently for months, and felt so confident I could sell them and send them to a new home and they do well. And most of the time they did, but there were definitely some individuals that just did not eat in their new home. And I worked through all the troubleshooting with the individuals, and some of them ended up not making it. They just never ate for those new owners. And I hated that. So that's not necessarily always how it goes, though. I know one friend of mine just got a pair from Andy that, again, hatched in December, and it's now June. So some good age on them, but it's not like they're a year or two old, and they're eating great for him. The pair of hypos that I got from Glenn, again, I got those maybe in March, and they hatched last fall, and they ate fantastic for me the entire time. So that's another one of those, like, I want to crack the code and figure out, is there a way to have success or not? But with that, I have that trio of non-feeders I got that have all been eating fantastically for me. I will be making those available, but it's probably not going to be until like the fall. Like I'll probably have them at Colubrid Fest with me, because I want to be totally sure that they are past that point of like stress disturbance affecting them, and that they have the most likelihood of eating well in a new home.
All right. Well, we're right at the 2-hour mark. What is your final, if you were to summarize, what's your final thoughts on this species? Are they for everybody? They're not for everybody? You'll have them in your collection forever, it sounds like. They're a mainstay in the scaled life. So
yes. I don't think they're for everybody, just because that low and slow patience that they require isn't everybody's style. But anybody that wants to keep them, if you get a really good, well-established individual, there's no reason you can't have success with it if you set it up right. So don't be afraid to try it out. Breeding them wasn't difficult. It was just the hatchlings that take some figuring it out.
Awesome.
Before we wrap, Zac, I think we should ask PJ the final question. Although you've answered this question before, PJ, you've had quite the up and down since that question was asked before. And I think that, I'm interested to hear where you're at and where your thoughts are on it now. So Zac, you nail it. Take it away, buddy.
All right. So state of herpetoculture currently, does PJ like it, hate it, respect it, think we're growing, think we're stuck? Just kind of give us your thoughts on where herpetoculture is today, where it's heading, and where you want to see it go.
Yeah. So if you guys remember that line I said earlier about with the hatchlings, try not to care if they live or die, and just stick with your routines and why you're passionate about it. Like, I think that exact same thing could be described here for the hobby as a whole. Last time I was on the podcast, again, it was early 2023. We were still in the wake of the pandemic boom, where it was a darn good time to be a breeder that was producing any snake, because it just all went for top dollar, and man, what a time to be alive. Things are not at that same level right now, and a lot of people are feeling the reality check of that. And that almost parallels really well, like my own experience getting back into my new collection. I've gotten to shift away from like the things that I was chasing because they were moving well or selling well or seemed to be the next big thing, and hyper focus in on what I was actually passionate about, whether it was easy, difficult, sells well or not. And that's where I see the hobby really taking a big turn as well. I think people have stopped taking as close of a look at trend chasing, or they're more willing to try out some new species because some of it's becoming more visible. And not only the types of animals kept, but the people who are in the hobby, the cream is going to rise to the top of the people who are actually here for the passion and for the animals. Good members of the community are the ones that are going to stay. And those are the people that are going to make the biggest impact for the community and for figuring out some of these unique, creative passion species that is just going to help drive us all forward.
So you think we're in a good spot?
Yeah, I think we're in like kind of the reality check and growing pains phase, where some of the fun and easy and business booming phases that we were previously in, like, it's still good, but it's just not as attractive to people that are not in it for the right reasons and in it for the long game. And we're course correcting ourselves.
Fair.
You know, I thought that you could have gone a completely different way there, PJ, when you said, like I said before, where, you know, don't care if they live or die. Well, I feel the same way about herpetoculture. I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Well, I mean, I kind of did mean that in that, like, don't listen to the nonsense out there.
Right.
Like, this is a dying hobby. Like, if you're in it and you think it's a dying hobby because you're not making the money you want or nobody wants the species you have, like, ask why you are in it. Like,
Right.
No, nailed that, man.
Yeah,
100%.
All right, I got one more question. Can you, because you are one of, in my mind, in both of our minds, it's not just my mind. That original Kluberfest was special. The second Kluberfest was special. And those of us who have been to both of them are like, yeah, we're not missing this. You know, why? What about Kluberfest made it so, like, because I remember I can't remember now. I can't remember if I met you at a Tinley first, like, or Kluberfest.
yeah. I think it was. I flagged you down at
23 Tinley, right? Yeah,
that sounds right.
But the thing was, like, that first Kluberfest, we always talk about this vibe. I can't explain the vibe. I will be 90 years old, maybe on my deathbed, and I will remember sitting on the concrete with my back against the wall of the convention center and being like, holy hell, we did that. Like that
was our message. That
just
just happened. That's what we messaged each other. That just happened.
Mm-hmm. And now we're just trying to keep that vibe alive. So can you talk a little bit about how Kluberfest has impacted you? Maybe some people that are like, well, should I go? And what Kluberfest is? Because we'll say this one more time. It is not a show. A show is part of it, but it is not about the show. It is not about the sales. That is not why Kluberfest exists.
It's not even about the symposium. It's about the community.
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
And I know you got that. And that's why I want you to give your perspective, because we're 40-something, middle-aged guys. Maybe it would be a little different coming from a younger buck.
So I'll start it off by saying, like, I am truly an extrovert, or not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. So, like, the whole social aspect for me, it's not like that's my natural state. I go to Tinley and I've developed, like, the people that I hang with and I talk to, but I'm not out there, like, being everyone's best friend and meeting tons and tons and tons of new people. But at Kluberfest, it just feels incredibly different because those of us that are interested in these more niche species, something about the vibe in the room, it just feels like you've found your home, you've found your spot where the people around you get you, and or you get to interact with some people who are interested in those same species as you for the first time, because that's just not common at the other expos or whatever that you go to. And I think the opportunity to just see the way that other people are doing things from the talks, whether you go there already knowing people from online or not, you're going to meet people while you're there. And those friendships have lasted. I think for me personally, going to that first Kluberfest as well, it was right as I was starting to get back into things. And I was still a little nervous of, like, oh, I've got this backstory of having crypto, like, are people going to see me as this, like, dirty mark if I go there and not really want to associate with me? But, like, it's been the exact opposite. That whole group of people has just been super welcoming. There's no gatekeeping. There's people want to share information freely. They want to support each other. They want to teach what they know and give you the opportunity to learn. And so it just felt like a very unifying experience. Year 2 was cool because we got to, like, go back to summer camp and see all our friends, but we were all, like, kind of excited to see, all right, new place. It's a little bit bigger. Like, what's going to happen now? This is going to be exciting. And it was. And I think that same momentum is building into year 3, where it's, we're going to see, again, like, that uptick in growth rate of the moellendorffi. Like, we're about to get to hoppers on, and big things are going to happen.
That'll be the theme for this year's Kluberfest.
Yes.
We're now on hoppers.
Yeah, we're now on hoppers. Yeah. So it's one of those things that's hard to put words on as well, but I just have no doubt that anybody that's on the fence about it, I could not imagine someone going and regretting going unless they were going for the wrong reasons to begin with.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I had to have you do that because we respect your opinion on everything, man. You're part of our family. So with that being said, thank you. I know people wanted this one. This is going to be a good one. It's going to be received well. So with that being said, where can people find PJ now?
Yep. I am on Instagram as The Scaled Life. It's the.scaled.life. So check me out there. You can shoot me a message, and happy to chat snakes, chat moellendorffi anytime.
Very cool. Okay.
Or you can find me in the CCR Patreon, and we can talk on the monthly calls. So
yeah, well done. All right, Clint, this was a good one.
Absolutely. As always, you can find everything that we have available at Metazotics.com. Use coupon code CCRadio at checkout. Save yourself 5%. You can find me at Clint Bartley on Facebook and Instagram. Metazotics on Facebook, MetazoticsLLC on Instagram. Give us a shout.
All righty. And everybody can find me, Zac Loughman, on Facebook, Dr. Crawdad on Instagram. As always, if you're a young person, you're in high school, you want to work with animals, go to college, consider West Liberty University. We have the zoo science major. I actually have an accepted students day tomorrow, and our numbers are ticking up again. Not that they were ever down. We're still, we're the second largest major on campus. In beings that I am competitive, that is unacceptable. We need to be first. So with that being said, come help us be first. With that, like I said, we got Womas hatching today. False waters, I think, are hatching probably tomorrow. We got so many hognose snake eggs in the incubator. Experiments going everywhere. Spotted turtles hatching. That's a new one for us. So, you can learn by doing if you come to West Lib. But with that being said, be it evening, afternoon, morning, or night, whatever time of day it is, have a good one. And we hope to see you on the next episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.